Do you sometimes feel that there are hidden secrets that if you just had the information, it would make all of the difference in your business? And if this information existed, would you even know where to begin to look? On this episode, I'm joined by fellow growth thinker Anna Vitale, the Chief Client Officer at Growthink. And today we're going to discuss how you can know what you don't know and how this can make a massive impact. So Anna, there's a lot of information out there. How do we begin to know where to look and what to look for so it will help us make massive impacts in our business?
That was such a great intro, Tim, and I'm glad to have the opportunity to talk about this concept. It's sort of ambiguous, and by nature of being an unknown, these secrets to unlocking growth and value in a business are oftentimes blind spots for owners. And there's a lot of reasons for that. As owners, you're often focused on what you know that are good things. So we know we have a really strong market opportunity in Dallas. Let's get on hiring another salesperson for that market. Or you're focused on fixing the things that you don't know about, that you don't know about. So for example, we know we need a better CRM, but we don't know what type of CRM. So let's start learning about CRMs. So it's sort of the nature of day-to-day operations and day-to-day business for most owners and executives to be focused on the things that they know and the things that they know that they don't know. But when we think about the world of knowledge, those two categories, both of which are knowns, we would think represent maybe 15 to 20% of the universe of knowledge. So there's this huge bucket of ideas and possibilities that we think about as the unknown and as blind spots. And so it's probably easiest to share maybe a few examples from past clients. And the way to go about looking for this, and it's sort of like you're on a hunt for secrets almost. And so, it's hard to know exactly for each type of owner where the starting place is going to be on that. But oftentimes for us, we uncover things in an analysis of the company's financials at a level that's much more detailed than what the typical bookkeeper or even contract CFO is going to be able to uncover. So for example, recently we worked with a consumer product company and they were very focused on EBITDA, which is great. They wanted to be profitable. They were on the path to break even and profitability, but it was sort of like, why isn't this, why aren't we there? Like, it feels like we should be there. So there was a high level of understanding of, our P&L. Well, we drilled down and helped the company look at each of their sales channels on a channel by channel basis. And in doing that, we found that one of their largest channels, I won't name names, but one of their largest channels was unprofitable on a unit economic basis, meaning that the more they sold in that channel, the more money they actually lost, which answered the question of why do we keep growing? And when our gross margins are so good, why are we still unprofitable? So this is an example of something that until, an outside firm like growthink came in and did this analysis, it wasn't even a way of thinking about how they do business that was available to the client, to the company.
Right. And that is an unbelievably common scenario where you go into an organization and they've been managing the status quo and they think it's fine, bills are getting paid, payroll's being met, profits there, but then you find something that was a blind spot, as you mentioned, something hidden right around the corner, maybe even hidden in plain sight, like in the financials. And then you uncover it to them and they go, oh my goodness, how have we been living life like this for so long? When you find these nuggets of wisdom, if you will, of in the financials, and you present them, do you feel sometimes like there's potentially pushback from jumping into some new arena or doing something different? Does it get contentious at times? Tell me more about that.
So businesses are not just sets of numbers and not just data. So they're definitely human components. So one example, of exactly what you're talking about. We were working with a very large food bank, and the hypothesis was that in order to double the pounds of food distributed per year, which is a very noble goal, we needed to acquire a new facility to do this that had basically double the square footage. So our analysis actually revealed that through a pretty incremental addition of refrigerated and frozen food space, the food bank could in fact double its capacity without requiring the purchase of this new facility. But ultimately what it came down to is that, they wanted a new building. And that means something on kind of an intangible level, right? Above and beyond just the pure profit or, in this case, impact that the client wanted to make. So yes, well, we, in that case, uncovered what we consider a blind spot of, by focusing on the highest turn, freshest produce that also hit the notes of wanting to deliver more nutritionally dense food to the population, fresher food, etc. You could basically do a renovation and achieve that goal in your existing facility mix. What that then uncovered was that, look, this isn't just about the impact. This is about, what's important to the board, what's important to donors, having a nice, new, very well-functioning space, which in and of itself is valid. So I think in that case, while we did uncover some considerations, it helped ground the team and like, what are we really doing this for? And by having these sorts of facilities, it also opens up opportunities for community engagement, community programming, more donors to come through and have a nice experience when they're walking the floor versus the previous facilities. So I think it helped kind of tighten the lens in that case.
It almost sounds like there was two air quotes here, don't knows that you discovered. One was, hey, we can actually utilize our existing facility to do X, right? Achieve our goal, which maybe was an unknown. And then the other unknown was the qualitative aspect of people's emotions tied into why they actually wanted a facility that then kind of confronted them to deal with this information. So the value of going through the process with growthink and discovering these unknowns was far more than, do we need another facility and how much is it going to cost us?
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes a huge difference to an organization when people feel that their wants and needs are validated and are being heard and actually being implemented. And sometimes that's, those are choices that are above and beyond what the financial statements show.
Yeah. Now you made a mention about the knowns, the unknowns, and the unknowns. You said 15 to 20% in that arena, but it could be 1 to 2% of what we actually know as business
That's a
owners.
good point. That could be one of my blind spots.
Yeah, maybe even less. But let's talk about those three areas a little bit further. So business owners, very often, you wake up in the morning, you have a to-do list, you know what you're trying to accomplish. If you're successful at all, you're probably tracking your quarterly goals and sitting down with your teams, but you're really living in the known. And there's only so much progress you can make in the known, right? Like we're trying to get a new CRM, or we're trying to set this up, increase our profitability, hire these people. It's all very tactical in the known. It doesn't feel very strategic. It feels like the strategic may be in the we know we don't know arena, which is the first place that most business owners go to when they have strategy sessions. Like, what we know we don't know these things, how are we going to figure that out? But it's not until somebody comes in with the you didn't even know this, that is where the true massive, insane impact can come to a business. Now, you're going to be confronted with a lot of information. You might have to make certain decisions based upon what you've now found out. But when it comes to revealing these unknowns and finding these blind spots for these business owners who are so buried in the day-to-day, how do you recommend or suggest a business owner takes the time to pull back, and really start thinking more strategically versus just stuck in the tactical?
Yeah, it's such an important question. I feel like there's a lot of people who speak very well on this, but from my experience, it's you've got to carve out space, whether that's in a peer-to-peer community, whether it's by working with a firm like ours, whether it's by just taking a long walk alone, to kind of let ideas percolate, and let things come up. And, general openness to taking phone calls. I mean, one more client story, and this doesn't speak to our work, but our client has a solar technology firm and has rolled out a financing option through that company. The CRO of that company was telling me he just, he took a call, and it was, hit up with an email marketing campaign, things that we get and throw away every day. And it was, do you know about this new tax, way to kind of classify solar panel use by homeowners on Schedule C, which basically allows your own solar panels to be classified as an asset or business that you can then deduct certain costs from taxes, which massively, if they're able to roll this out, massively increases their value prop in an industry that's struggling to compete anymore on a price basis in certain markets like California. So I think in that case, that, owner, that CRO, he had the openness to like, this might be a waste of time, but also it might not. And I have space in my day. I'm going to make space in my day to let in, some element of variety and things that are not on my to-do list. I think that that's really, really important. And, I think our most creative and visionary owners, like there's different types of businesses and different types of business owners, but our most creative and visionary ones, they have that level of openness to kind of hear past maybe the messenger, in this case, like piece of email marketing copy that maybe wasn't that great, and are willing to dedicate the time to just pick up the phone and hear what somebody has to say.
Hear past the messenger. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that's great. Because as a business owner, so often there's a lot of ego tied into, and maybe not even in a bad way. It's just you're the head of the ship, and all decisions die at your doorstep. So I think that's why it's so important for you to, as a business owner, doing all that kind of tactical stuff. But as you're saying, if you're not carving out the time to, take a step back, take a quiet walk through the woods, see what the universe is, downloading and all that kind of stuff, you're going to miss certain things.
Yes. And we have a lot of empathy for owners, especially in the current business environment. I mean, you're getting hit with all kinds of things throughout the day, from your employees to new regulations to lawsuits and, to competitors. Like it's a lot. Like it's an uphill battle, right? In a lot of ways. And so, part of one suggestion is like delegate what you can, right? Which many people talk about that. And a lot of companies decide to delegate things to us like financial analysis, like moderating and leading strategic planning processes for their teams, like market research. But then, yeah, I think it's really having those built-in checkpoints, like having that scheduled time for working on, thinking on. I know you're a proponent of this, Tim, just working on the business versus working in the business. And it's really hard. If you don't set that aside, what I see is that, all the to-dos and all the reactive stuff just will run you over as an owner.
What would you say are some common signs of a business owner that needs to take that step back? What are some, or a business in general, when you're looking at an organization and they're just kind of pushing up against the grindstone, white knuckling it, really not making the progress that they want to? Like, what are other signs that you see or things that you hear when you're like, you know what, you guys are a good candidate to go through some unknown strategic process?
Yeah, I think it's when the feeling of, if you're trying to grow, if you're trying to increase profitability, if you've tried everything that you know how to do, then that's, we had one client she had a suite of physical therapy clinics that served workers' comp claims for the most part. And she's convinced she needed to kind of overhaul her service strategy. And we engaged to work on exactly that problem, like what services mix should you offer? We talked to everybody on her team, probably 20, 25 people, and went, visited the clinics, walked the clinics, and from that took away that there was a very toxic personality in the C-suite who was shutting down a lot of people. That was the first takeaway. And the second takeaway was that their underlying patient base had shifted to be predominantly Hispanic, but nobody in their clinic spoke Spanish, and there was no Spanish signage on the walls. And that was in really stark contrast to other facilities we toured that were very friendly to that population. So that was a case of where the client came to us saying, you know, I think things aren't working and I know what I need to do. I need to fix my services suite. And it actually ended up being a combination of an HR issue with one particular individual and a cultural bridge that needed to happen with their new patient demographic.
Yeah. Is it possible for someone to find the unknown unknowns without a third party?
I don't know.
Right?
I don't know.
I don't
Um,
know.
I think there are, once you get, so part of this is getting a little bit more deeper now, but part of this is being comfortable with the idea that you might be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that is a practice. And to be a business owner, you kind of have to have this like stubborn belief that you are right. Like I believe that's actually a critical ingredient to launching a business. But then there comes this other point of like, okay, I need to consider I could be wrong, you know, and kind of what is that balance? And am I even comfortable being in a space where I could be wrong? And you know, for some people, there that level of flexibility, it's a little bit hard to get there. But I think once you, I think the thing is that the more you're convinced that your point of view is the right point of view, it's almost like the more blind spots you have
Yeah.
because you're not receptive in your day-to-day life to information that's coming in that doesn't fit your belief system, right? And so I think going through the process of realizing, oh, I believe this for such a long time that this was the way to do my business or this was the way to manage employees, and it turns out it works a lot better this other way. And then making that mental note of like, wow, I was wrong about that essentially, but it's really good that I got a different idea and did that now. And in the future, when I feel stuck, I know I'm going to ask X, Y, and Z because maybe I have a blind spot.
Yeah.
So I think that with practice, you can begin to like kind of get there on your own, but it's certain, I think it helps to have a third
So
party.
how does someone, like the value of enrolling, let's say, an Anna at a growthink, the value of bringing in a person that is not biased and they have completely different belief systems. They see so many different things in the market, but it takes a little bit of humbleness, a little humble pie to say, you know what, I need to bring someone in that may know something that I don't. And I think you're right about the business owners. Like they absolutely need to have a sense of I'm right because they're signing the checks and they're taking the risk. But how does someone get themselves to a point to where they're even comfortable bringing someone else in like you to find things and to find those unknowns? Do they look for those things, or is it usually ancillary? Are they usually asking for this and then something else is
Yeah,
uncomfortable?
I mean, I'd love it if somebody would call and say, Anna, I want you to help me find out a secret that I don't know, right? Like, but so far, there's not a lot of SEO keywords for us to advertise on for that. No, most of the time people come to us with with a known unknown problem.
Mhm.
Like, I'd like to grow, I'd like to raise money, I'd like to expand in some way, or, everybody in my team hates each other. I need to figure out why. So, and that's fine. We'll take those starting places. I think it's if you have the wherewithal to ask for help in one thing, our team will help you get to kind of these seemingly secrets or magical uncovering of blind spots, that helps with areas that you might not have imagined when you first reached out to us.
You've been at this for, I believe, 13 years. And would you say that you hear more about symptoms than root causes?
Yes.
So
That's
how
a
do you
great,
how
that's
do
a
you deal
great
with
way.
that? How do
That's
you
a
deal with that?
I mean, just I guess the same as like I've done it. I'm sure you've done. We've all gone to our doctor. Or like, this is what's going on. I'm. This is what I have. Like, just please get me on the treat. And they'll be like, okay, take a step back. We're gonna do a workup. We're gonna run some tests. And it's like, okay, you don't have this horrible, scary thing that you thought you had. This is what you actually have, and this is how we're gonna help you. And so it's just, and by the way, sometimes clients are right. It's not like they never know what they need help with.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, we just go with them. I guess we just go with them, and if we see an opportunity to share something that, of course, we're always sensitive to how things might be received, but our best clients are the clients who are like, I'm committed to success. I'm not committed to my belief system about how I succeed. And I
Yeah.
would say that's the frame of mind that has the most space for uncovering new possibilities.
Would you say that the bigger the opportunity, the more unknown unknowns?
It's funny because like one great idea, like one really elegant idea that nobody else has come up with can unlock a really big opportunity for a company. So just thinking harder and smarter about a problem, I think, whereas somebody could work really hard and kind of, you're doing the right things and you're uncovering these different dynamics, but the idea itself isn't as special, for
Right.
example. So I think that, there are some companies that are just better ideas that are maybe easier once you have the idea to unlock the opportunity. And
Sure.
yeah.
Do you think the unlocks that you need to have the shiny degree and the Ivy League folks and the former, Big Four, like, is that the folks that can unlock it, or can unlocks come from anywhere? What's your take on who is qualified to unlock the unknown?
Oh, I mean, anyone, like, I mean, for me, my mother-in-law in a personal capacity, she's so incredibly just street smart that she has pointed out so many things that have been, blind spots for me in my life. I think degrees, it's they catch a lot of the best and the brightest, but they surely don't catch everyone. And that's kind of what I've always thought about is that represents is like, yes, in your late teens, you were identified as someone who's very smart and very capable. And but what you do after that is just as important. And in some ways, if you've had success in all the traditional metrics in life and in this, in society, I think that you are maybe a bit less creative. Not always, but sometimes, right? Because it's like I've followed every step. I've gotten, straight A's. I've gone to the best school, and that's a track. So I don't think we have people on our team who have those credentials, and we have people on our team who don't. And I think it's so person dependent. I think though past experience is a very good predictor of success, particularly if you've had success in a variety of industries, because that means a few things. It means one, you're able to learn quickly, enough to be dangerous in a variety of arenas. So that's what that tells me. And then, it also tells me you have that flexibility of mind. Because if you're going to jump from industry to industry, you have to be comfortable being kind of the dumbest person in the room for a while and just be like, this is where I am right now. And so I look more for those qualities like success in diverse roles, success for our founders, exits in diverse industries or positions on boards or C-level positions in diverse industries. Again, not a must-have, but those signify to me the things that I think probably are more important to success than the degrees and like the name brand early career firms.
Sure. Sure. How does an organization foster a culture of curiosity, intellectual curiosity, seeking, wanting to know more that we don't know, to go deeper into that universe? How does a company foster that?
I think it's a really good question. For us, it's a question we think a lot about because we're primarily a remote organization. And so keeping people thinking on those questions, thinking of bringing new ideas of how to do things to the table certainly takes work. It doesn't just happen. But there are certain things we do and our clients do, which is carve out dedicated days or hours for strategic conversations, where that is the topic, like whether it's starting from ideation or whether it's, okay, we're now evaluating these 3 to 4 strategic initiatives we want to pursue. It's keeping kind of regular then calendar, remote virtual meetings on the calendar to keep those things going. And then, it's like saying explicitly, especially to, younger or less experienced team members, like, we want your ideas, like, come, there's nothing set in stone here. And please, like, if you're doing something in a way that's better than how we've done it in the past, please let us know. And then, I'll also throw out like specific challenges to people on our team. Say, I want you to, we had one person who, part of her professional development, wanted to dig into different AI tools. And I was surprised she wanted to do that, but I was like, please, like, go ahead, do it. She came back and gave a presentation to everybody on the team about, the most effective way to give prompts, about what these tools can do at this point, what they can't do, etc. And it really blew me away. And candidly, I was surprised, but it's sort of like until you give somebody the opportunity to try, you almost don't know what they're going to do. And I'd say that's, the companies who are really effective with talent, I think, find a way to build in some sort of trial up front, however small that will be, to see, like, how do you think? How do you work? Are you the type of person who can manage and meet a deadline? Are you the type of person who can suggest a different way to do the assignment than what was suggested to you? Are you comfortable with that interaction? And this is all for our company, which is a small private company. Larger organizations, I think, have more systems and processes. But for the smaller companies, trial first to evaluate fit, and then ongoing dedicated time for strategic conversations with scheduled follow-up to track progress, and then encouraging individual employees to take ownership of new learning opportunities, and then get that information out to the rest of the team.
In a world that's becoming increasingly automated, with more AI coming for more of these knowledge jobs, quite frankly, the knowledge jobs we feel like are the ones that are going to leave last, right? The manual labor, you see that the robots are coming, talk about it all the time. Do you think AI is at a point to where it can help with the unknown unknowns?
I have thought quite a bit about this and have run, the kind of set of circumstances for particular clients through AI to say, like, what could we be missing here? It's so. I don't feel like it's there yet. I feel like it will get there, but I don't know that it's there yet. And some of, like, as it relates to, like, identifying unknown unknowns, it's hard to put something in. I'm trying to think of what the prompt would be. I guess if it were like, I'm close to break even, but we just can't cross the threshold. Why could that be? Like, would it suggest looking at sales by channel or unit economics by channel? I don't think it would get there, but maybe I'm wrong. I think you'd have to be really engaged with the AI, like very, very specific prompts, which is a skill set in and of itself that I think most business owners at this stage probably don't have, unless that's, their industry.
Yeah. Well, business is so very personal. We talked
Mhm.
about this at the beginning, and the qualitative aspect, like that example that you gave. Maybe some of the unlocks and the unknown are hiding in the emotional, in the qualitative, and have very little to do with the numbers. And
Mhm.
we're never going to get there unless another human can sit with another human and really kind of get into the weeds, a bit like therapy. I mean, we talk about it all the time. Management consulting can be a bit like therapy. Um, what is your take on being the professional therapist and trying to get a client to those levels of where they're seeing different things that maybe they wouldn't have seen if they were just staring at the numbers?
Yeah, I mean, well, we're certainly not therapists. We not licensed therapists. Um, but I think that it's, it's just being human with clients. Like once you build, we typically will build trust with our clients through meeting an expectation that they just objectively had for us. So building a really beautiful financial model or a well-designed pitch deck, and they feel like, okay, we're in their court, we can do something, we can add value here. But then it's just reading the room of when the right time is to say something or to raise a question, and making sure that you have the trust built up for that, that to land. Um, and so, there's really complicated situations, particularly when we're working with clients to sell their businesses. That's probably the most emotionally heavy lift that any business owner will do in their lifetime. For most people, serial entrepreneurs, it's sort of part of the game. But for a lot of people, their business is their identity. It's their family's identity. And it brings up a lot. So, in those cases, there've been situations where, we have really good coaches who, and we consider you one of those, who work one-on-one in that executive coaching capacity to help them understand, like, what is bothering me about this, what is not. We've had complicated situations where the family member who founded the business has passed away. And now, the remaining family members have to kind of think, what would dad want? What would it's hard. It's hard to get through that. And but ultimately, with the help of coaches and with kind of moving through the process at a methodical pace that allows people the time to kind of process each step, and focusing on, the end game of, in that case, you know, a sale kind of unlocks this generational wealth potential for your family that creates a legacy, which is ultimately what this was all about. Like, it was never about the factory, right? It was always about you guys and what you're going to do with your life and what sort of legacy dad was going to leave. We can help people work through at that high level, but it can be very complicated, and it can be hard to know when, the right time is to say these very sensitive things.
Yeah. Is there any commonality in the unknown unknowns? Is there a through line that you see with business owners, or is it just all across the board? Is there a certain unknown that you've seen time and time again where you're like, well, I just consistently see business owners not recognizing this thing was sitting there, or is it broad in general?
I think I think most of them come up in the financial, in a,
Financials.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Because just simply asking questions, another client we were organizing their financials for planned fundraise, and they had this like multi-million-dollar general management bucket and a management company that was offloaded from their three operating divisions. We're like, probably don't want to have just like $5 million a year of general management expenses not attributed to any revenue stream. Let's bucket that out across divisions. And when we did that, it was really clear that, like, the human capital investments being made in one division made that division extremely unprofitable without a clear path to profitability. And ultimately, I mean, it took some time, but ultimately that division was sunsetted. So it's in the numbers, a lot gets, I think, it's not what people tend to be, what owners, I would say most owners tend to be focused on, of our clients, right? They don't tend to be focused on it, or they don't fully understand the implication of, like, your cash flow versus profit. So I'm profitable, but I'm out of cash. Well, that's because your AR AP cycles are all jacked up, right? So there's a lot of just areas in the financials, I think, that touch back to other elements of how the company operates and what they're doing. But I think that, I mean, first of all, I mean, I'm biased, but I think our analyst team is just like unmatched globally, like for our client base, for small privately owned companies. I don't think there's anybody better than the people on our team to read financials and unlock secrets and unlock opportunities for growth. But then I think it's just financials are complicated and a lot of people don't want to spend, 30 or 40 hours in spreadsheets grinding away, like trying to uncover secrets. But that's exactly what we like to do.
Yeah.
So it's
That makes sense. That makes sense that you would go to the financials to find the general baseline of the unknowns. I guess we'll wrap it on this idea or thought that, two people can look at a number and have different ideas, right? So it's like you're saying with profitability, one person can say, hey, our labor's at 35%, and one person can say that's insane, another person can say that's low. So finding the balance of what the truth is, right? I mean, the subjective truth behind every number, like how do you approach that?
I mean, it's consensus building. Like somebody said once, like truth isn't like a diamond that you just dig out of the ground, right? Like it's like you got to. So yes, there in that case it would be like, okay, labor is 35%. Then we contextualize that for okay, other companies that look and act like yours, their labor costs are whatever they are, 40% or 25%. So then we have some kind of a benchmark. Then it's okay, what's your labor mix? Like, are you guys using contractors? Are you using full-time hires? Does that make sense for what you're doing? Are you a small company, but you have a really highly paid like CMO and a couple agencies are going to deliver something much more valuable at half the cost. So it's that what you just said is exactly how it starts, which is something's flagged and maybe a few people at the company disagree over what it means, but then we bring in information, we bring in the data, and we're like, okay, so based off of all of this, you want to keep things how they are? Because benchmarks are benchmarks, they're averages, right? So every company behaves different. So we have to evaluate each variable going into that based on if it's serving the people at the company and the performance of the company objectively from the perspective of the company.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like if a business owner wants to find some unknown unknowns, they want to unlock some latent potential inside of their business, they want to make some outsized gains, that bringing a qualified third party like growthink to the table in a structured financial planning / modeling engagement could be the next step that could possibly unlock millions of dollars that are just sitting there for them.
Yes. If there was one thing that I could, a project that I would do over and over again with 150% confidence that we were going to unlock value for our client, it would be send us your historical financials, let us build out a projection sheet, let us, go through line by line, everything you're spending money on, all the ways you're making money, and, have conversations around it. At the end of that, you are going to be so much clearer on what helps you make money, what is helping you lose money, and what to do about it.
So there you have it. How do people get a hold of you and to go through a process like this?
Oh, yeah, well, come to growthink.com or you can email me, anna.vitale at growthink.com. Maybe we can put that in the show notes here. But yeah, I love this stuff. Love to have conversations like that.
Well, thanks, Anna, for taking the time, and we will see you on the next episode. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks.